The harder you grip, the worse it gets. Every person who has ever white-knuckled their way through a high-stakes moment knows this. You clench your jaw, tighten your chest, run the scenarios, and the anxiety doubles. The thing you're doing to feel safe is the exact thing keeping you trapped. And there's a 3,000-year-old explanation for why and a way out that isn't what you think. In this video, I'll show you, number one, why your body physically locks up when you try to control outcomes and what's actually happening in your nervous system when you grip tighter. Number two, the anxiety about anxiety loop that most people never escape and the ancient concept that breaks it without requiring you to stop worrying. Number three, what real surrender looks like when the stakes are genuinely high. Not an exam you made up in your head, but an actual career defining, life changing moment. Let's get into it. A woman I'll call Priya messaged me before her third attempt at a licensing exam. 2 years of studying, two failed attempts. She wrote, I feel so anxious and stressed about what will happen. I know the material, but the morning of the test, my hands shake, my chest tightens, and I go blank. She wasn't underprepared. She was over-controlled. Every neuron she had was firing at the outcome instead of the action. And that distinction between gripping the result versus doing the work is exactly what we're going to pull apart today. Priya described it perfectly. Sweating, tense muscles, clenched jaw, tight chest. She wasn't imagining a vague future. She was experiencing a full physiological event in the present. And that's the part nobody explains well. The chronic need to control outcomes isn't a personality flaw. It's a nervous system strategy. When your brain perceives that a future outcome is both important and uncertain, it does what it was designed to do. It activates the threat response. Your jaw tightens because your body is preparing to bite down. Your chest compresses because your body is bracing for impact. The sweat is your cooling system kicking in for exertion that never comes. You are physiologically preparing for a fight with the future. The Vedic tradition has a concept called vairagya. It's usually translated as non-attachment, but that translation loses something critical. Vairagya doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop fusing your nervous system to an outcome you cannot fully control. The Sanskrit root raga means coloring. Vairagya is the practice of not letting the result color everything. Your breathing, your thinking, your body. Modern polyvagal theory, developed by neuroscientist Stephen Porges, maps almost exactly onto this. When you're in control anxiety mode, you're running on what Porges calls the sympathetic branch, the fight or flight system. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that actually helps you perform, goes partially offline. You get tunnel vision, you choke. Not because you're weak, but because the strategy of gripping harder is neurologically incompatible with performing well. Vairagya is a nervous system downregulation practice disguised as a philosophical idea. When you release the fused attachment to the outcome, you're not giving up. You're bringing your prefrontal cortex back online. You're returning blood flow to the thinking brain. The Bhagavad Gita puts this in one of the most quoted lines in all of Sanskrit literature. You have a right to perform your actions, but you're not entitled to the fruits of those actions. That's not spiritual resignation. That's a neurological instruction. Do the work. Release the grip on what the work produces. Your body will follow. For Priya, the shift wasn't about studying more. It was about separating the action of sitting that exam from the outcome of passing it. Those are two different events. She could only control one of them, and her nervous system needed permission to stop treating the uncontrollable one as a present moment threat. There's a comment that shows up in every anxiety video, in some version of the same words. I feel anxious because I'm worried about being anxious. Read that again. It's a closed loop. The anxiety produces more anxiety, and at the end of it, some people just cry because they wish they could be normal. This is meta-anxiety, and it's arguably more debilitating than the original fear, because now you're not just afraid of the exam or the relationship or the job, you're afraid of your own internal state. Your mind has turned on itself. Neither breathwork nor a number tip list touches this, because the problem isn't the anxiety. The problem is the relationship you have with the anxiety. You have made it an enemy, And every time you try to suppress it, fight it, or fix it, you confirm to your nervous system that it is, in fact, a threat worth fighting. The Vedic tradition offers a concept called Sakshi Bhav. Sakshi means witness, Bhav means state of being. It's the practice of becoming the observer of your own experience rather than being fused with it, not watching from a cold, detached distance, watching the way you'd watch weather move through a valley, present, unafraid, not trying to stop the rain. ACT therapy, which stands for acceptance and commitment therapy, calls this diffusion. The idea is that you're not your thoughts, you're the awareness that notices your thoughts. When you're inside the anxiety about anxiety loop, you fused with the content. Sakshi Bhav is the exit door. You step back one level and become the one watching the loop run. This is not passive. This is one of the most active cognitive moves a person can make. Try it right now, even as you watch this. Notice the thought you're having. Don't evaluate it. Don't fix it. Just notice that you're having it. You just practiced Sakshi Bhav. You just diffused. The reason this works physiologically is that the moment you shift from being the anxious thought to being the one observing the anxious thought, you've reactivated the prefrontal cortex. You've created a gap. And in that gap, the nervous system has room to downregulate. The jaw softens. The chest drops. Not because the threat disappeared, but because your brain stopped treating your own internal state as the threat. For people stuck in the anxiety about anxiety loop, the instruction isn't calm down. The instruction is stop trying to fix the anxiety and start watching it. Name it out loud if you need to. There's anxiety here, not I am anxious. That one word shift from I am to there is the difference between being the storm and watching it pass. This is where most spiritual content falls apart because someone who has been studying for 2 years and is on their third attempt at a career exam doesn't want to hear, just let go. That sounds like giving up. And the question underneath it is completely legitimate. Is there a difference between surrendering and just quitting? And how do I know which one I'm doing? Bhakti philosophy draws a line here that is sharp and clear. The Sanskrit term is nishkama karma. Nishkama means without desire for the fruit. Karma means action. It's often translated as desireless action, which sounds passive, but the full teaching is the opposite. Nishkama karma means you bring your maximum effort, your complete skill, your full presence to the action, and you release your grip on what that action produces. The warrior in the Bhagavad Gita isn't told to sit down and meditate, he's told to fight, but to fight without making the outcome of the battle the condition of his worth. That's the distinction. Surrender, in the Bhakti sense, is not about reducing effort. It's about removing the contamination of outcome attachment from the effort itself. Stephen Hayes, the psychologist who developed ACT therapy, frames this as committed action. You choose your values, you act from those values, and you accept that the results are not fully yours to determine. That's not weakness. That's psychological maturity. Hayes spent decades studying why humans suffer, and the answer he kept finding was this: we treat uncertainty as a problem to be solved rather than a condition of being alive. Priya's real problem wasn't the exam, it was that she had made passing the exam the condition of her safety. Her nervous system was running a calculation that said, if I fail this, I am not okay. And with that equation running in the background, every study session, every practice test, every morning of the exam was loaded with existential weight it was never designed to carry. The practical shift is this: separate your identity from your outcome. You're not the exam result. You're the person who studied for 2 years, who showed up twice when it was hard, who is showing up again. That is the action. That is what you control. The result is information, it's feedback. It is not a verdict on your worth. In Bhakti practice, this is called Sharanagati, which translates as complete surrender to the divine. But you don't need to be religious for this to work. The secular translation is surrender to the reality that outcomes are co-determined by factors beyond your individual control. Your job is to bring everything you have. The result is not yours to carry before it arrives. The letting go of control anxiety isn't a one-time decision. It's a practice you return to, especially when the stakes feel highest, because that's when the grip tightens again. That's when you notice the job, and that's when you use the tools. Name the action you control, Step into the observer and release the outcome as a separate event. The people who perform best under pressure aren't the ones who care less. They're the ones who have learned to care about the action and release the result. Athletes call it being in the zone. Vedic philosophy calls it nishkama karma. AC therapy calls it committed action with radical acceptance. The name doesn't matter, the practice does. Writing those two things down, the action you own and the outcome you release, is the beginning. But for most people, the grip comes back the moment the pressure returns. If you've tried to intellectually accept uncertainty and the body symptoms still show up, the jaw, the chest, the morning dread, that's not a knowledge problem. That's a pattern that needs a different kind of attention. I do free one on one calls, 15 to 30 minutes, no pitch, no agenda except this. Figure out exactly where you're stuck and what the next real step is. You walk away with a clear direction, whether we ever talk again or not. The link to book is in the description at dailymindreset.com your consultation. If you have been in the loop for months or years and you're tired of knowing the theory but still feeling the grip, that call is for you. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of thinking delivered every week. Tell me this in the comments when the stakes are genuinely high. Does your body tighten before your mind even registers the fear? And where do you feel it first?